I think that the £100 billion, obviously, that's being used to make Trident would be a lot better spent as guns or butter, isn't it? It's weird if we have a priority. I completely agree with what Sally said. If the political will was there, it could actually be used to fund decent public services. And it is a completely outdated weapon, as people have said as well. My point, Paul partially, Paul's point about jobs, I think that one thing we would say is that in Seattle we've got a councillor there and there's a Boeing plant there, and we're saying that the workers in Boeing could be used instead to make public transport. It's the same skills, they could be retooled. It's expensive to retool a factory like that, but it can be done if the money's there and the political will's there. People don't want their public services privatised, they don't want weapons of mass destruction, but it's not reflected in Parliament.
The good thing is that nuclear weapons haven't been used. I mean, the trouble is, the spending is ethically just as important, because, ethically, obviously, weapons of mass destruction and nuclear weapons in particular are unacceptable. But the British nuclear weapons have never killed anybody directly. Spending cuts have. All over the place. I mean, home care cuts kill both ways. I mean, they kill the people who are being cared for, and they kill the carers who are trying to exist on less than the minimum wage. Obviously, the fact real cuts of not getting the 4% increase in the health service clearly kills people. So the spending side of it is incredibly important as well, because the spending side has resulted in people dying prematurely and will continue to do that. And I think the question about the jobs, I think it's a very easy one. There are actually very, very, very few jobs related to nuclear weapons, certainly in this country. And as Sally said, if the funding shifted into the NHS, the jobs would just soar. And in terms of the end of the last war, if they could do it then, that was a massive industry. That was a major part of the economy that have to be shifted. And we're talking, a few jobs in Barrow. It'd be very easy to guarantee all those people the jobs on the same salary they are now. Very, very easy to do that. And I think, that just takes that problem away. Having said that, it seems to me, blindingly obvious that we don't need Trident. The dominant view is we are against weapons of mass destruction and we've got austerity. We can't afford, except when it comes to British nuclear weapons. They're the acceptable face of weapons of mass destruction, apparently. And in the age of austerity, the one thing that we can afford to do is spend money on Trident.
There have been some reports on public opinion, and I've did a piece of research looking at opinion from the 80s compared to the present day, and in the 80s, according to most surveys, the public were broadly in line with government policy, but since then it gradually moved away to the point where there's at least a majority of people who are against Trident replacement. If you look at surveys that actually include the financial cost of Trident in the question, then opposition jumps up by 10% every time. So now the government pretty much are in opposition to the public.
I come to you hot foot from Nottingham. Some of us were campaigning this morning, as we've done many times, on an anti-Trident stall. For quite some time now, we get a lot of people who come up the stall and they say, well, yes, it's a lot of money, but we need it to defend ourselves against our enemies. And you say, well, who are the enemies? You know what a lot of them say. Who are they now? Who? What's their answer?
Romanians?
The Russians.
Oh, yes.
Haven't you been attending to what the politicians
Yes.
say? Michael Fallon and so on. The Russians are coming. You think you produced a leaflet, are the Russians coming? We produced one, tracking deterrence for that reason. But I think what we're in danger of overlooking is the role of NATO in all this.
Yes.
We shouldn't overlook it, because NATO was not founded by the Americans. It was founded by the dear old post-war British Labour government. The arch-imperialist Ernest Bevin, right? And NATO is an aggressive imperialist alliance subsequent to the collapse of the Soviet Union. It's advanced across Eastern Europe. It's got nuclear weapons pointing at Russia. It's on its borders. You can understand why any Russian government would be alarmed about that. Yes, we know Putin's no good, but the fact is, he has not been the aggressor. Don't ask me, ask Henry Kissinger. He says it's a lot of nonsense that Russia has territorial ambitions in Europe.
I was down here about 3 years ago when somebody from the campaign against the arms trade was talking about their campaign, which they're calling Arms to Renewables. And the arguments they're making is that actually climate change is going to cause massive instability, which is going to be coming our way because people are going to come here for resources, and what we need to do is to go into that alternative technology. And if you want to point people to that, and I party politics, and excuse my colleagues here, but party politics does stink sometimes, but actually if you follow issues then you learn a lot more. So if people want to know about this, it's on the Campaign Against the Arms Trade website, and they're saying it's important to stress that campaigning for the end of the arms trade does not mean wanting to put people who currently manufacture arms out of work. CAT wants the engineering skills of arms workers to be used more productively rather than being wasted manufacturing arms that will increase instability and conflict around the world. If the vast quantities of public money and political support the government throws the military industry were to be shifted towards the renewables sector, there would actually be more jobs than displaced arms workers would need. That is a really strong message to take out.
Just to add to that point, the funding currently from the government to the arms trade equates to about £13,000 per year per job as a direct subsidy to the arms trade. So there is the money there already for that conversion.